There are two reasons why the Cincinnati Reds are not set up very well to take advantage of their opportunity this weekend against the St. Louis Cardinals.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm Jeff Carr, and on today's Locked On Reds podcast, a little bit later on, I'm going to get into why the Reese Hinds trade raises a huge concern for me, and it has nothing to do with the return that the Reds got for sending Rece Hinds to Miami. We'll talk about that in just a little bit because I want to break down this Cardinals series in a few minutes. We'll talk about who has the best chance of going big this weekend and really showing out for the Redlegs in a much-needed series to put the Cardinals back in their place that I just am a little bit worried about for the Redlegs. Look, I told you that I thought that the Reds would win 2 out of 3 against Philadelphia, and they did. And the biggest reason why is the pitching matchups that they had against the Phillies. They missed Christopher Sanchez, and they missed Zach Wheeler. And the Reds had their good pitchers going as the pitching staff is currently healthy and constructed. That's not the case here. And it's not because I believe that St. Louis's pitching staff is otherworldly. I think this is part of the second reason. So the first reason is don't love the Reds pitching side of things, and I don't love how the Reds hitters match up with the Cardinals starting pitchers. Kyle Leahy, Andre Palante, and Matthew Liberatore are not going to strike fear into the hearts of most people. But there's something about this Reds lineup that I have seen all my life, really. It's not even just a recent thing, but all my life, where if a pitcher specializes in keeping the ball on the ground and generally limits the hard contact, he doesn't even have to be that good. For some reason, the Reds get shut down by that guy. We'll get into that in a little bit. The thing I want to start with, though, is the island of misfit toys that's going to be on the mound starting for the Redlegs in this series, because your probable starters, they're not favorable. You got Brady Singer going tonight. You've got Chris Paddack going on Saturday, and you've got Nick Lodolo going on Sunday. And all of them have major question marks around them. Brady Singer has been horrible here recently. Now, he's had some decent starts in the year of our Lord 2026, and he had an okay season in 2025. But he has not been good at all this year. And the biggest problem is the long ball. He has not had the issue with the walks that everybody else has had. He's actually pretty good at limiting them. What's the problem is that the strikes that he does throw are beach balls that everybody's killing. And this Cardinals lineup, man, they're coming in a little bit hungry because their lineup has been pretty good so far this year. Guys like Alec Burleson are really going off. He got a silver slugger last year. He's picked up where he's left off. J.J. Weatherholt is probably the biggest competition to Sal Stewart in the Rookie of the Year race. And then you've got other dudes that are really showing out for them. So the lineup for the Cardinals can go off against pitchers like Brady Singer. And so he cannot be the guy that we have seen for the better part of the last month. Like, we're talking about multiple starts here. And had everything been equal and this entire pitching staff been healthy for the Redlegs, there might have been some actual opportunity to either give him, those extra rest, maybe skip a turn in the rotation, bring somebody else up, maybe put him on the IL with a, inflamed ERA. But you can't do that right now with how hurt the Reds are. And so that's a rough one going tonight against the Cardinals. And then Saturday you got Chris Paddack, man. And quite frankly, if you think Chris Paddack is anything but a box of chocolates, you've got more optimism about him than I do. And that's saying a lot, because everydayers know I'm an optimistic dude when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds. But Chris Paddack is here because it's him or you. It's the pitching staff is so hurt that Nick Krall had to look out on the free agent heap and like, what's that? The Marlins got rid of that? Yeah, come on, bring that in here. Yep. No offense to Chris Paddack or anything like that, but this is the equivalent of going up and down your neighborhood street and finding a couch on the side of the road and saying, you know what, that'll work. And hopefully it does. Like, his first start was not horrible, and I think that's kind of like the ceiling for him right now. He was a highly touted prospect coming up with the Marlins or with the Padres, and he's pitched for multiple different teams since then because he wasn't necessarily living up to the hype. So he's got something in there. And I really hope that Derek Johnson can tap into it. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think he's going to go 6 innings and give you a quality start. I just cannot predict something like that for Chris Paddack right now. And then you got Nick Lodolo, who, to me, showed shades of his former self. Not a lot. He had 5 walks, and it was a slog in his last start. But he showed shades of who he is and who we are looking for. The breaking ball was really working at times. It's just you could tell that he still didn't have full confidence in it, and even though he would drop one in there on the back foot, and I continue to close my eyes and see the back foot breaker that he dropped in on Trey Turner for a strikeout that was phenomenal, it wasn't always working like that. And so he would go fastball, changeup, fastball, changeup, fastball, changeup, and that's not as effective. Those pitchers are fine, but they are nothing like his breaking ball. He is a very average pitcher without his breaking ball. So I have a hard time saying that, yes, he's going to go. The other part of this is that he's still kind of in spring training mode, not because he's like mentally not the same as everybody else, but just because of the injury that he dealt with his wonderful blister. That set him back so far that he's really still in the month of March as far as his command and his build up for the season is concerned. So can this be his first start, his breakout start? Maybe. And the Reds need it because they have to take advantage of this opportunity against the St. Louis Cardinals. Coming into the season, if you'd have asked our friend J.D. Haffern over at Locked On Cardinals, if you'd have asked any national writer about the St. Louis Cardinals, like, this is going to be a tough year for Cardinals fans. Like, J.D. was even talking about, he's like, man, I don't know, dude. I don't know what Busch Stadium is going to look like this year. And to be honest with you, that was music to my ears. But that's not what we've seen. They are playing some good baseball. If you separate our feelings from the Cardinals of what we had in February to what the team that we see is now, they are completely different. And I really hope that the Reds can tap into whatever we were worried about with the Cardinals and win 2 out of 3 or, dare I say, sweep. But I don't feel good about it with the pitching matchups. I don't. I'm not going to predict that. I'm going to say they need to do that, but I'm not going to predict it to happen. Because the other part of this is the Cardinals' pitching side of things. The statistics for these 3 guys are not that phenomenal. I mean, probably the guy that you'd be most, quote, impressed with is tonight's starter for the Cardinals and Kyle Leahy because his ERA is below 4, but it's not like either one of these 3 for the Cardinals are setting the world on fire. But what they do just absolutely worries the heck out of me with this Reds lineup. They all keep the ball on the ground. Matthew Liberatore is the one that keeps the ball on the ground the less, but he's done a decent job at limiting hard contact and things like that. Well, not a super decent job of it, but he has done a decent job of keeping the walks off the bases and things like that. I'm getting my analyses mixed up. But when it comes to Kyle Leahy tonight and Andre Palante tomorrow, the ball going to be on the ground. And at least with Kyle Leahy, it might be hard contact, but there are some metrics that are saying his ERA should be almost double what it is. So that tells me one thing. I mean, yeah, I can sit here and say that Kyle Leahy's getting lucky, but that also tells me that he is playing to his defense's strengths. They have a pretty decent infield defense for the Cardinals. It's not like it used to be, but it's still pretty good. And if you've got a guy that's able to play to their strengths, like I do worry a little bit on if the Cardinals will be ahead of the Reds by the time they get into the bullpen in more often than not this weekend, because that's what's going to be the key here. This Reds bullpen right now just feels like it's overtaxed, and the Reds starters need to give them length, but neither one of Singer nor Paddack do I expect to go 6. I'm just hoping for 5. And maybe Nick Lodolo can give you 6, but I don't know how stretched out he is and how into his in-season self he is. And so if you get length from Leahy, Palante, and Liberatore, it's going to be tough, man. This series is, and I hate to admit it because In February, I would have said, boy, when you play the Cardinals, you got to sweep them. You got to go. Or at the very minimum, win 2 out of 3. And honestly, that expectation has not been removed, but I don't feel good about it. I do say, though, that there's a couple of guys that are going to break out this weekend, or at least have a really good weekend. One of these guys is not a breakout candidate because he's just been going real well all season. But I'm excited for this series for a couple of Reds hitters. I'll tell you who next.
Hey, it's Mike and John from Locked On Angels. We wanted to talk to you about something that's important, and that's your family.
I've been married a few years now, and my wife and I have a 1-year-old, and we're always thinking about his future. Who's he going to become? How can we help? And what ways can we make sure his future is secure?
Yeah, I'm in a different season. I'm married. I have 3 young adult kids, and lately I've been thinking a lot about how to make sure my family's taken care of in the long term.
This is why life insurance matters, not because it solves everything, but because it helps provide financial security for the people you love the most.
And that's where Ethos comes in. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and even get same-day coverage, and there's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions online, and you can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month.
So take 10 minutes to get covered today with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/lockedonmlb. That's ethos.com/lockedonmlb.
Get up to $3 million in coverage in as little as 10 minutes at ethos.com/lockedonmlb. Application times may vary. Rates may vary.
As some of you may or may not know, my other job is to manage all of the MLB shows here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And every so often when there's an opening for a show, there can be multiple openings, and we need to get the right hosts on the right show. That's where Indeed sponsored jobs comes in, because they make it so easy to find the exact right person to fill the job that you need to fill. Skills, experience, location, all of that and more. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your job posting. Look, when it comes to Indeed sponsored jobs, in the moments that we've been talking here, they've made over 27 hires through Indeed sponsored jobs worldwide. And listeners of today's Locked On Reds podcast are going to get $75 in sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status that it deserves over at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on Locked On Reds. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Thanks for making Locked On Reds part of your day, your first listen, and however many listens you listen to Locked On Reds. Really appreciate you being an everydayer, and thank you for helping us make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the country. Look, you already make Locked On Reds your team every day. Now, take it up a notch. Go ad-free and join our group chat on the Discord by joining the Locked On Reds Everydayer Club. Go to lockedonreds.supercast.com to learn more about that. We also have a link down in the description of today's episode for, easy clicking to go learn more about the Locked On Reds Everydayer Club. All right, when it comes to the Reds lineup, I mentioned that I'm a little bit worried about it, and it's a hard time picking guys who are going to break out. And firstly and foremostly, before we get into the breakout, get ready. Ke'Bryan Hayes is going to start on Sunday. He just will. Look, I don't agree with it. You don't agree with it, but I know exactly what Terry Francona is going to say. He's going to say nobody in this lineup has more hits against Matthew Liberatore. He's going to start on Sunday. Don't get mad when it happens. You heard it here first. But when it comes to the rest of this weekend, I feel really good about Sal Stewart continuing his hot streak. He's got a 4-game hitting streak, which isn't crazy, but his most recent game, he had 4 hits in. And I think that he will continue that momentum into this series. He is one of the Reds that have like the lowest amount of experience against any one of these pitchers. He only has 1 plate appearance against Kyle Leahy. He only has 3 against Andre Pallante. He only has 3 against Matthew Liberatore. Now, he does have a homer off Matthew Liberatore, so I love seeing that. But when it comes to Pallante and Leahy, he hasn't done any damage yet. And for me, I think that there's, and that was like late last year. That was still when he was getting his cup of coffee. Dude now has his feet wet. He's really getting into the swing of things being a major league ball player, has endured his first slump and come out of it. I think that he will continue to go. If the Reds win this weekend, it's going to be because of Sal Stewart. Because Sal has a real good chance to go off. I can expect him to give us multiple multi-hit games, probably a homer or two. I'm not going to go too crazy with the long ball stuff, but he's just going to make really good contact against all three of these pitchers because none of these guys are swing and miss guys. And to Sal's credit, he's also not a swing and miss hitter either. So even if they were swing and miss pitchers, but I digress. The whole point here being Sal Stewart is about to go off. Another guy that I think that's going to add in with him is going to be Spencer Steer. I'm going to shout it from the rooftops until it like finally happens. But StatCast says that his expecting slugging percentage is 100 points higher than his current slugging percentage. And his current slugging percentage is pretty good. Like, he still has more room to break out. What we have seen is not all of it. There's a really good shot here that we are just scratching the surface on how good I'm getting my guys mixed up, on how good Spencer Steer can be. And I think that there's a real good shot he could do that this weekend. He is a guy that has hit for power off Andre Pallante. There's only one other guy in the Reds lineup that has a long ball besides Spencer against Andre Pallante, and that's Nathaniel Lowe, who we should see a lot this weekend too. Really hope that they don't bench him in favor of Ke'Bryan Hayes or anyone else, quite frankly, because Nathaniel Lowe needs to be in the lineup. But Spencer Steer matches up favorably with all these guys. He is the one hitter in this lineup that has seen Kyle Leahy the most, tonight's starter for the Cardinals. However, nobody in this lineup has more than one hit against Kyle Leahy. And funny enough, the only home run off of Kyle Leahy, that's TJ Friedl. Might be a reason we see him start tonight. Just get ready for that. But I'm really excited about Sal and Spencer. And I feel like the way that the Reds lineup bingo has moved, moving Elly into the number 2 spot, and as much as I plead for him to be a leadoff hitter, I don't think I'm ever going to get my wish there. So I'm happy with number 2 because, well, when you're number 2 in the lineup, you get the second most at-bats, generally. So I'm happy to see that. And then with the guys behind him and the way that they're able to line them up, I mean, you got 2 righties in Leahy and Pallante tonight and tomorrow. So J.J. Bleday should be hitting third in those games. So then you'll have Sal Stewart, and then you'll have Spencer Steer. And quite frankly, you really, really like 1 through 5 there. Because I still believe that Matt McLain can do this. This is going to be another thing that I'm going to be in the corner in a straitjacket just rocking back and forth. Matt McLain can do this. Matt McLain can do this. But I think he can. It's a little bit of blind hope at this point, but he's still getting on base at a nice clip. I do wonder if we see him hitting leadoff. I would like to see it a little bit more because I don't feel like he's got enough run there. But I do feel like if he does really get the on base and the hitting putting together here, then we're really talking about a 1 through 5 that is real nice. And with that, the interesting part for me is going to be Elly De La Cruz because Elly doesn't do very well against any of these guys. And I talked about guys that I think are just going to go crazy this weekend. He has the most hits against Andre Pallante of anybody in the lineup, but he has 3 singles and 2 doubles, and that's in 23 plate appearances. So it's not as if he's just absolutely dominating Andre Pallante. He does have 3 walks as well. So, like, I'm kind of hoping that he goes off against him. He's only got 1 plate appearance against Kyle Leahy. Not sure how that worked out. And then he's got 12 plate appearances against Matthew Liberatore with 2 singles. So he hasn't really done any damage against these starting pitchers. I'd be curious to see because it feels like we continue to try to find obstacles to put in front of Elly and say, all right, if you don't get past this, then you're not as elite as we think you are. Well, if I'm saying that Sal Stewart's going to be the reason that the Reds beat the Cardinals, why can't Elly? And if Elly starts going off this weekend, man, there's not a whole lot of detractors anymore that are standing in line waiting to just cast a stone at Elly. But for anybody that still is, if he goes off against the Cardinals this weekend, I think that line is going to be empty because he just had such a good year. And I'm not saying that I'm trying to throw stones or anything, put obstacles in front of him, because I believe what I'm seeing from him. But thinking from a detractor's perspective, if you've got something else you need to see from Elly, he's probably going to show it to you this weekend, because he hasn't shown it yet against any one of these pitchers. I'll be interested to see how he goes. But I'm looking forward to this. I really want to tell you that I believe the Reds will win 2 out of 3. I'm not predicting that this time. I'm not. All right, switching gears. The Reds made a trade. Rece Hinds is heading to Miami. And I really think that this is an indictment on Nick Krall. Erectile dysfunction is way more common than most guys think. Millions of guys deal with it at some point in their lives, and that's exactly why Hims offers a straightforward way to handle it. Hims connects you with licensed healthcare providers online, giving you an access to legitimate ED treatment options for the comfort from your own home. There's no awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process that makes it easier to take care of yourself. Whether you're looking for ED, whether you're looking for hair loss treatments and all that great stuff, Hims has you covered, and the confidentiality of the nice private online appointments, you don't have to worry about being embarrassed as you go out in public and take care of things that you absolutely need to take care of. It's straightforward, transparent, and it's designed to make getting care feel easy. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/lockedonmlb. That's hims.com/lockedonmlb for your free online visit. hims.com/lockedonmlb. Prescription required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is a generic version of Viagra. Viagra is a registered trademark of Viatris Specialty LLC. Hims is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris. As the Major League Baseball season rolls along and the Reds keep on doing their thing, you can trade every single baseball game over on Kalshi, literally every single game. And as the game goes along, you can trade in and out of your position. So if you see something changing in a way you don't like, you can buy right out of that thing. And when it comes to the Reds and the Cardinals tonight, the Reds are trading at 52% to beat the Redbirds, which means if you place a $100 trade on that, you'll get a payout of $189 if the Cincinnati Reds get that dub. Got to head on over to Kalshi right now. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use the code LOCKEDON. You'll get $10 when you trade $10. That's the code LOCKEDON over at KALSHI for $10 when you trade your first $10. 18 and up. Only restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Really appreciate you hanging out with me here as we get set for a Memorial Day weekend. Hope that you have a lot of fun stuff planned, whether it be with family or friends or whatever that might be. And look, all throughout the weekend, you can continue the conversation with me over on Twitter at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs, or on TikTok at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs. You can also follow Steve on X at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs, at S. Offenbaker with 2 Fs. And you can follow the show everywhere you get your podcast. All right, Reese Hinds was DFA'd whenever the Reds added Chris Paddack, and I was kind of curious because I was wondering how they would move with that, because they had to add him to the 40-man roster, and they already had 40 men on the roster, so you're going to have to cut somebody. And it was tough kind of picking through the guys that you could have cut instead of Rece Hinds. Like, I came down to maybe you cut Kyle Nicholas, the guy that they traded Tyler Callahan to the Pirates for before the season started. But other than that, it was kind of a hard choice. However, the official end of Rece Hinds' tenure here in Cincinnati raises a major concern with me about Nick Krall, because ever since Nick Krall took over, he has been one to hammer the draft and develop from within ideology. And we've heard that all of our lives from different Reds general managers, but it kind of, like, to me, and maybe I was just listening to him more than other guys, but to me it feels like he said it more than other general managers or president of baseball operations or whatever you want to call them. It felt like I kept hearing Nick Krall tell us whenever we were hoping for the Reds to make a big move over the last few years, well, draft develop from within. That's who we are. Okay. Where's Rece Hinds fall into that? Because Rece Hinds got 131 at-bats at the major league level. We drafted and developed Rece Hinds. And when he got to the major leagues, we gave him 2 minutes worth of evaluation and say, yeah, no, we're good. Nope, not going to work. And I firmly believe he's going to prove the Reds wrong here. I think he'll get ample playing time down in Miami. I think he's going to go off. He could be a big-time power dude. I don't think he's ever going to hit like 250, 260, but he's going to be like a 220, 230 guy with like 30 bombs. And he just never was going to get that run here. And I think that two things can be true. I think that he didn't get a fair shake, but I also don't necessarily know that the Reds were in a position to give him a fair shake. I just wonder how this is all going to work. Because if you looking up and down this lineup right now, as happy as I am with Elly De La Cruz and Sal Stewart, Spencer Steer was not drafted by this organization. Actually, and even to Eugenio Suarez, not even just the signing this year, he was traded for from the Tigers all those years ago. Not drafted by this organization. The draft and develop, maybe because he was not technically drafted, he was signed as a college free agent, but TJ Friedl kind of feels like he's falling apart on us here. JJ Bleday, no. Dane Myers, no. Blake Dunn, yes. But it's a very small percentage of this roster that are drafted and developed from within. And so, and yeah, you can give him credit for Chase Burns, but that's like somebody, it's like somebody getting a real nice sports car through some sort of inheritance. And it's just like, okay, yeah, sure. It's fine. Number 2 pick in the draft and you pick the best pitcher. This is who he should be. I think that ultimately, the Reds just try to find different ways to explain to us why they don't want to invest as much as they could in the roster. And maybe you're just like, Jeff, you're naive. How could you not know this already? Why is Rece Hinds the tipping point for this? But Rece Hinds feels to me like a guy that they should have given more run to. And for them to say that they would rather see more out of Kyle Nicholas, who has the same problems as Connor Phillips, has the same problems as Luis May, has the same problems as Zach Maxwell. And none of them can hit the strike zone with any sort of regularity. I think if you had to argue of the 4, Connor Phillips does it the most, and that's saying something. But you'd rather see more Kyle Nicholas than Rece Hinds. So how's the development then? How's that development going on? Because I want to say that Hector Rodriguez is going to take off, but I don't know. And defensively, he's still coming up. And as a hitter, he just swings, man. Like maybe he can develop into something a little bit better than what we're seeing so far, but I feel like there's a huge question mark on developing position players. I think they looked into Elly. They did a good job with Sal. Probably an okay job with TJ Friedl, but like there's been just as many guys, if not more, on the negative side of that equation. And that's probably more baseball than it is Reds, but it doesn't feel as though a team that preaches draft and develop from within is any better at it now than they were at any point in my life. Right? Like, that's the thing. And maybe I'm just overreacting, but when I saw the Rece Hinds trade, which first and foremost, whenever he was designated for assignment, I knew he wasn't going to make it through waivers. So the Reds were not going to keep him. At that point, somebody was going to trade for him because they were going to hear that there were teams lining up to claim him off waivers, and so they wanted to jump waivers, and so the Reds would get something. I thought maybe it was just going to be cash considerations. I like that they got a pitcher. I just don't know how much that pitcher is going to factor into things. He just made it to AAA this year after being drafted in 2024. He just made it to AAA this year after being drafted in the third round of 2020. But the return notwithstanding, it feels as though the Reds punted on a guy they never gave full opportunity to, and who really kind of fit their mold of draft and develop from within. I don't even know what you hear down in the comments section. I appreciate everybody that's been a part of this show. Just wanted to bring that thought up. Maybe I'm a little bit overreacting to it, but didn't love how the Reese Hinds era ended and what it meant for one of Nick Krall's favorite talking points. But that'll do it for us here on today's Locked On Reds podcast. Thanks so much for checking it out, and make sure that you're subscribed and following us. That way you get Tim Daniel every single night after every single game, live at the end of every ball game. And then we'll be back with you on Monday, breaking down the weekend. Steve will be back with me as well. And it's going to be a lot of fun all through the season. Promise you, because we love having fun talking about Reds baseball right here on the Locked On Reds podcast. Now make sure you check out the Locked On MLB feed if you're listening on audio. If you're watching on video, hang on for Locked On's first ever 24/7 streaming feed. But until Monday, you know that me and Steve and Tim will be Locked On Reds every single day.